Hello everyone, this is a congested old guy gaming. Just gonna apologize ahead of time. It's actually taken me about half a week to get to this. Just haven't been in the best health this week. As evidenced by the fact that this is as good as I've gotten, but it's more than time enough to get this video rolling. We had a banger of a session last weekend. Completely out of the blue. I was getting set for another home game and another home game session, and that was the one campaign we did not do at all. Also in Dragon Quest II, before I get into the story, we've got Illith up to level 7, which isn't crazy high, but I think it's more than enough that we can start chancing the Tower of Wind, given the fact that Agog and Orfeo have a combined 30 levels between them. So let's start making our way back down there. I'm going to start off with a slight side story and try and keep this somewhat organized, a little less rambly than typical, to make up for the fact that I am very much in monodrone sedated Eeyore mode. A little bit of personal backstory. That is once how my voice was described, and yeah, that's still stuck around after all these years with me. But my son, at the tender age of 9, has had for a couple years now his little homebrewed 5e battle arena. And in the wake of everything, he just kind of had this flurry of inspiration last week and was updating it about 3 different days after school. So my monster manual and things got a lot more work out of them. And he was all amped about it. He wanted to run another arena session, and I have a wizard for it. And it's actually a great place for his first official D&D character. He has a 5e fighter, and my wife has a cleric. And we just sort of party of 3 it as he runs his battle arena. So we ended up doing that this weekend. And my Northwest campaign, as I had mentioned at the beginning of this, was spontaneously game for a session this week. I got messaged out of the blue saying, hey, this weekend's available. Are we running? And I was like, sure, absolutely. They were anticipating not being available, and they came available, which was great news for me. We got them rolled up. Carl the Cabbage Vendor is a goblin thief. Also, the hit point tank, as it would turn out. My wife ended up making a mage out of Terra, the twin sister of Kara, who is a statue in the middle of a cave. As unfortunate as that went. And Terra did not make it out with many hit points at all. I think 2 was her starting hit point total. Maybe 1. I think maybe Terra was at 1. And Tibbs, our urchin from the first session, leveled up into a fighter with the worst luck on the planet. Wound up with a constitution score giving a neutral modifier, and flat rolls are flat rolls. Rolled a 1 on a 1d8 for first level hit points. Actually had to use her talent roll to put 2 extra points in constitution and double her hit points. Now, this puts them about as back against the wall as you can imagine. Fortunately, due to the little level 0 adventure we ran, and the prize they got, which I had sort of cut in half, you were supposed to get 200 gold, according to the book, for defeating the Lottery of the Lost with PCs, 200 gold per character. And I cut that down to 100 gold to give them a sort of instant rivalry, as another group of crawlers who had previously found the first couple glyphs took their claim of half of the treasure for services rendered through their patron noble. So they still got 100 gold, which is a modest fortune to start running in Shadow Dark with. Magic ants are going to be a pain, by the way, just for that sleep spell. Okay, Illa's still up, and I accidentally hit attack. Okay. That could have been worse. We're just going to keep swinging away, try and preserve some of these magic points. They're not crazy strong attackers, these magic ants. So I wasn't terribly worried, but it's one of those battles that could drag out a while. Illith is now level 8. And she got a new spell, so let's check that out. Alright, we have the Repel spell, which would be helpful, but we could use those levels too. Repel is actually going to come in handy here once we get this cloak. Let's put Agog on the smoke. I don't think, aside from the odd chance that the zombie is in aggro mode, that we have a decent chance at taking it out in one round. But the characters are all rolled up, and they have more than enough money. But they also know that adventuring, when 2/3 of your party, including your statistical front line, with no healing magic, has a combined, 3 hit points, it's beyond a risky endeavor, especially when the thief plans to play as more of a combat coward, described by the player as such. Just not much in the way of statistical flexibility as far as survivable strategies, looking at that. But to their credit, we're a little familiar with the rules by this point, and they decide right away, that's right, we want to be looking for another staircase here. But they decided right away what they wanted to do was maybe look at the carousing tables, spend a good deal of their money just trying to get as close as they could get to level 2. I'd given them sort of a free sampler, if you will, of carousing. Just a simple, you go out, they throw a party in your honor, you gain an experience point. For those unfamiliar, Shadow Dark has a carousing table as a downtime activity, where you could devote certain levels of gold towards a result. And it always gives you experience. And then there's usually a side effect, and the side effect is almost a gift to GMs like me, because they're almost always compelling plot hooks or little threads you could build out off of. Just nice little story sections that keep the game moving after. But more importantly, getting to level 2, given the fact that you could now take some of the lackluster constitution rolls this party was unfortunately gifted out of the equation and just roll flat hit points again was sort of what we were going at here. Pardon me for one sec. That pause in talking brought to you by the cough button. Always a good decision. Okay, I think we have to make it over to the ledge there. This is where we ran into that ghost mouse battle previously. I don't know if we want to really chance a spell. Illith's getting kind of low there. Even though, in all honesty, once we get the cloak, we're probably just peacing out. Having that third caster is huge for the party, by the way. And yeah, these are all dead ends. So we have to look for another staircase at some point in the tower that we can reach. I knew the center mass strategy didn't work out 100%, just feeling my bearings from here. It has been a while. See, going off the ledge there will take us off the tower. Let's try that staircase down there, which I had seen earlier, just passed up for reasons. I believe this is a chest we'd gotten previously. Let's see if anything's in it. Medical herb. We will use that just to keep the inventory spot open. I do have a club I have to sell when we get back to town too. Sort of forgot about it while leveling. Unless we just got it now, in which case I'm not paying attention because, as we could tell, I've been talking a lot of D&D. Let's just have Orfeo fireball the Megapede. They're not a huge threat. They have high physical defense, which is why Agog only hit for 14. But their hit point total isn't super high either. Okay, there's our other staircase. All the way up there in the top right corner, and I believe this is down to the first floor too. We're also trying not to hit Orfeo's hit points, MP, as much as possible. His magic points are really useful for out-of-combat healing. Our hit point total isn't so crazy yet that heal more is our only viable option. Okay, we do have an NPC there. And this game is going to punish us for walking away from the square first by making us go through a battle with 3 big cobras. Not the worst thing we could have pulled in this tower. But yeah, they caroused and actually got some great rolls going. And as it turned out, they managed to get a good bit, as we get an antidote there, a good bit of the experience necessary for the second level. Started on a bit of a hex crawl up to the town of Rathbone. And he's just warning us not to walk over the edge. This one's gonna hurt. Surprise round by 5 lizard flies. Honestly, we're lucky only one casts fireball. This is a quick Infernos here, and just hope Illith's turn comes up in a hurry. Probably do a little refresher to Agog's hit points here. Just keep that front line hail. Now we're going to work our way over. So they start on their hex crawl. And this is where a beautiful little thing happens. Where the party, for whatever reason, gets paranoid over the strangest things. And it's in part the character trait that is going to be defining this goblin thief, who is now a cabbage merchant that has somehow become a goblin. We find out through RP that he has no memory of being a goblin previously, which was something I sort of left ambiguous and completely up to the players. Pick up 46 gold out of that chest. Even more so, while goblin peoples, after the Goblin Wars, did manage to settle in a great many of the civilized places of the world, in fact taking over their former hometown of Prim, goblin folk are rather averse, in my world, to vegetables. Kind of straight carnivore folk. So that was a nice little wrinkle thrown in there. Nice Infernos taking out the Magidraki. Unfortunately, that MP pool is really getting low. 85 more gold. Can't argue with that. Gold hasn't really been an extreme thing for us. An empty treasure at the top of the tower. Was not expecting that. Guess we have Agog and Orfeo on the Megapede and just hope. Yeah, Elith was not blocked by the stop spell there. I guess she was. I'll be. Smokes aren't the toughest thing in the world to deal with, but they do have that stop spell, which worked surprisingly more effectively than I thought it would. But the party is now desperately trying to find a way back to a more familiar life for them, and just figure out a way. Wow. Now, we should be in a much better position to deal with this, but we are running woefully low on MP for Illith. But the party is just trying to find a way to establish themselves back into normalcy and sort of figure out what life is going to be like now as dungeon crawlers. Yeah, I think we'll just have to do this fight and go back. Just gonna do what we can to get rid of these smokes first and then brute force through the zombies. Take out that single group first. So they're making their way up to the town of Rathbone, is the party. And at one point, one of the hexes I roll, I'm going based off of weather here, and they roll a perfect day for adventure. They actually Kinda hit gold as it was, and ran into the Wandering Merchant before they really had cash or a desire to buy anything random. Because literally their first actual day of adventure, they rolled perfect weather. And in perfect weather, I sort of give a 25% chance throughout the day to encounter a friendly NPC. And that's what they ran into right away. Huge 213 point gain there. So Orpheo's up to level 15. We'll just take the stairs until we can find an exit here, basically. There's the Cloak of Wind. So that's great news for us. We did achieve our goal right at the point we would have had to have turned back anyway. Let's go ahead, get rested up and saved. That was a good chance for me to take a small break, get a couple good coughs out. You know, that sort of post-congestion haze where your body is quickly trying to realign your lungs. Enough grossness from me. On the way up on this hex crawl, after they ran into the Wandering Merchant, said hello, and was literally gifted with a bag of gold in appreciation of the deed they pulled, and a reminder that he will be around. They start working their way up the coast, and this party managed to find themselves in a situation I literally wrote as a throwaway line. We're going to get a little spoiler heavy here, but it's a recap, and I don't mind recaps giving away information. There is one listing on my Wandering Monster charts for this area that just vaguely points to a landmark of no important significance. And then I have 3 dots in the word yet, because it's a very open game, and I like sort of ping-ponging back and forth between what my players do and how that's going to affect what I prep for. And right away, the first thing I roll for an encounterable hex is one of these. So they're on the coast, and I just decide that a random sandcastle is going to be built up about 4 feet high. It's going to be very intricate and everything, and then all of a sudden the tide's going to come and make it go away. It was a throwaway thing. No real import to it whatsoever at the time I said it. Just thought it was a funny thing. And they bid on this so hard, trying to decide if rival crawlers built it, and then they got on the topic of potentially some crabs built it, and this is where it gets great for me, because now they've put out magic humanoid crabs that are learning sentience, that are sentient and learning architecture. They get most of the way up, find another hex, and they end up bumping into a shipwreck. Comb the beach, find some minor treasures, including a cask of some very high-value spirits, and they decide that it's time to head back to town. They're somewhat burdened with what they have. They also pick up a bag of holding, because again, dice could not work against them this run. But they had no means of identifying the bag of holding. The mage did not detect magic or anything. Now we know magic is, the healers are somewhat magic resistant, so we're just going to go straight attacks till they're gone. No point in trying to attack the zombie beforehand, because the healers are just going to be healing the zombie until they are dealt with. So let's make this combat a bit shorter than it would have been otherwise. They make their way back. They get their bag appraised. And now they're thrilled because they have 10 more inventory slots. That's essentially a free NPC's worth of space. And they do more carousing, and lo and behold, another great roll, along with the experience gained on finding such a magical treasure on a random roll. And they're level 2. So our hit point problems are essentially solved in that moment. Things are looking much better at 2. They have all the equipment they could ever want out of life. But the carousing roll started a bit of a downward turn for them. Don't want to go that way. We have to head south to move to our next land. So the carousing roll had them put in the stockades for burning down a building. And I decided to frame it as a drunken argument over whether burning down the house of a wizard's apprentice would make the smoke change colors. But either way, the town is now a bit wary of these folks that they had otherwise greeted as local celebrities and pseudo-heroes. Get a surprise round here. You could see the monsters have gotten a bit more deadly. Gonna have Agog and Orfeo focus on the Carnivogs and let Illith hopefully survive long enough. Okay, she got the Infernos off on the Ghost the Ghost Rats. So that's huge. Did just survive there. Time to break out the old healing. Again, she's only level 8, so... Actually, while I'm here, let's have Illith use Repel, so we're not running into a ton of that left. Kind of want to make it up to the next town here if we can. 2 Baboon. We'll try a Sleep here. Just in the hopes. Okay, that's what we needed it to do. Mitigate some attacks, let these guys go in and brute force the rest of the combat. So now they're kind of wearing out their welcome in Southport here. Yay. This could be a problem. So we should reliably be getting rid of 2 here. Lucky there. And this is with Repel. Just want to remind you all of that. Switch up tactics. Let's get the most out of this Infernos. But once they're let out of the stockade after a couple days, they decide to go back up to Rathbone and check things out there. Now, Rathbone is a town that I had completely borrowed from a solo module that I did to build this out. Kevin Conrad's Well of the Yellow Toad God, or something like that. It was in one of the free samples because I'm a cheap guy. I don't have a ton of spare money at the moment. And just getting back into things, just sort of running things that feel more natural in the world and getting a bit more resources in so I'm not rehashing the same things I've always run. Felt like the direction to go. And this was a dungeon that I really kind of dug. I don't think we're quite making it to next town. 2 out of 3 on the baboon was nice. Unfortunately, one woke up. So we will just get through this battle and return back. The town itself was abandoned in the original module, and it stayed that way for me. I just sort of kept the lore that they had started worshipping this abomination that was found at the bottom of the well. Things went vastly awry. Let's just go with return. But I had some feral beast men moving in, and they would sort of hunt and scavenge through the night. And then in the morning, kind of make their way down to the tunnels beneath the well. So they start investigating a little, and they find some clues as to how the town met its demise and everything. The fact that the sacrifices were getting increasingly high in level and increasingly macabre. Like, the original module had these townsfolk, before they were wiped out, flat out sacrificing their young in the form of living tributes, just sort of dropping them down the well to live with the Toad God. And that is bordering on a bit too much for my comfort at the table. Sort of like those encounters were a bit too much for us level-wise here. So I kept that part sort of vague, but alluded to enough that they could see, oh, that was the direction it was going. Repel lost its effect, and literally on that square we get 4 baboons, which will be a nice little training for us, I guess. We'll stick around here a couple more minutes while I ramble through the rest, and just level up a bit more. Which reminds me, at some point here, right after this battle, honestly, I should probably actually show what we need to do with the Wind Cloak, because I never actually did that. I was so excited, and then we never actually used the thing. Well, those baboons beat the hell out of us anyway, so. Nice bit of gold, though. And yeah, we did get Elith to level 9. So Elith's leveled twice and Orpheo's leveled once. That ain't bad. We'll just cheese this and do a 1 square return here. Also forgot to sell that club. So first thing we have to do, find who got the cloak. And we want her to use it. And now that Illith has donned the Cloak of the Wind, using the item essentially equips it. Now let's sell Agog's spare club. Gonna hang on to that antidote for now. Nothing else really to buy here. Just gonna be a matter of getting to that next town. And I think we're close, but I also don't think I have it in me to actually narrate through that at the moment. The voice is getting a touch scratchier. But I do want to get through the rest of this crawl. At this point, we're going on a week into the campaign world's game time, thanks in no small part to a 4-day stockade sentence for arson. And they decide to head back up to Rathbone, which, as I pointed out, is an abandoned town being scavenged by beastmen. But they take the same route, and on the exact same hex, they roll a random encounter. So I now say the sandcastle is back, but it's a foot shorter with some breaker walls to stop the tide from smashing it. Now, if you remember previously, the party was a little paranoid about sentient crabfolk. And I sort of leaned into that with this description. So now they're very worried because the crabs are starting to learn. Next roll, I got a random encounter, and it was just some scorpions coming out from the rocks because scorpions were on my random encounter table. They were just milling about aimlessly, but my party seems to have developed an unhealthy fear of everything with an exoskeleton. Didn't even want to attack them in the normal way. Just grab some large rocks nearby and start smashing these scorpions, which was a very, very deadly thing they attempted here just for fun. The monsters they were going after have a, drop to 0 hit points poison on them if you fail to save. But they were undeterred. They were going for this fight. And lo and behold, they did it. Flat out wiped the scorpions. Just mopped the floor with them. Nothing really in the way of treasure there. But they did make it through their first unofficial combat as leveled characters. And they get to Rathbone and they start milling about, get a couple of a couple of scraps of paper and whatnot. We got poisoned there. Yeah, Orfeo got poisoned. So let's use an antidote. I know I'm heading in the direction of the town. I swear I'm just leveling. Three big rats. Not even going to waste a spell on these because at this point they're probably going to run. They decide to check down the well. Use a rope, roll down there. But not before attracting the attention of the scout of a rival gang that happened to be scouting out the area. See, rumors about the town of Rathbone and the treasures within are not uncommon. And there are, in fact, a good deal of treasures from some of the less problematic tributes. Originally, they just started offering food and then shiny trinkets and then large sums of treasure. And then when that ran out, we get into the sacrifice your goat and or firstborn sort of territory. We get real mythological in a real big hurry after that point. But there is a fair amount of wealth in these wells. Unbeknownst to the party, the source of all of these, the toad god, had been dealt with several decades of game time earlier. In the solo encounter I sort of tested this out with, I kept that as part of the lore. But the descendants of the remaining tributes had been living there and had formed an alliance and sort of a sort of assimilated into the society of the beastmen that started coming this way and using these caves as a sort of safe haven over the day. So there was still people down there, and there are still remnants of treasure. Agog has leveled. We got at least one level out of the full party. Bully for us. Gonna go against my better logic here, and we're gonna try an Infernos on the healers, just because if anything hits, it's a bonus. Just put Agog on the healer, because we know that's more than enough damage to take it out. And we took it out before it could cast heal, so we got a nice bit of chip damage on the zombie. The party lowers themselves into this well, and the scout had seen them but had run off when the party noticed them. Going back to the level 0 adventure we ran ahead of time, if you remember, there was a rival group that had taken half of their gold. And it made sense to me, as this NPC was there, that it would be a member of this group just sort of keeping tabs on them, since they're the other main group in this area at the moment. And they've hardly left a small footprint. I mean, getting out of a once thought of impossible area, setting fire to a building, they're fairly well known on a public scale. So this scout's watching, and this party goes down a well, so this scout decides to do their part in eliminating the competition without direct conflict, and he steals their rope while they're down there. They don't realize. They're just kind of perusing this well. And credit to my folks. Again, the goblin's sort of built-in cowardice helps to an extent. But they're sitting there and they're mapping this area out by description, which is fantastic for me because I'm running abstract distances with a little disc of ultimate battle terrain for encounters. They're doing their best to avoid encounters and think of things from a problem-solving standard. They did run into the remaining human. It's now down to 1. And the beastmen, but they managed not to antagonize the beastmen. Did bring up some painful parts for the human, mentioning the toad god and everything, which is still sort of a sore spot, as what humans remained down there started to resent their the unfortunate choices that led to their living underground. But at the same time, they don't really know any other life. So they're sort of comfortable there, and they're comfortable with the beastmen. And from what they've gathered, there's nothing really worth heading back up for. But the party manages to get some minor treasures, and they're offered a free escort out of the caves. But the same paranoia that kept the group out of all of the traps and danger also kept them from trusting the NPCs, which meant the large cache of things that were meant as a sort of going away present, I mean potions of healing and some extra ammunition and whatnot, are still there, because the party came back and said, nah, we'll just kind of do this ourselves. Get back to the well and find the rope's gone. So they have to break out another rope and a grappling hook, and they manage to hook it on fairly simple. Crawl back up, and they find a note sort of tagged to the side of the well as a little tongue-in-cheek, "Thanks, mate." branded with the wolf head, the symbol of the feral wolves. And that is our cliffhanger. It's going to be our cliffhanger for at least another week. There will be no Northwest session this week. I did some solo adventuring next week, so this weekend, barring me getting sick as a dog again, I should at least have that, if not another session of the home game. But yeah, a week into the Northwest campaign, and the party have now hobnobbed with some of the big, high, important NPCs of the town, investigated a mystery a little bit, created their own mystery of the sentient crabmen who build sandcastles by way of vague wording on a random encounter table, destroyed some scorpions, and committed arson. This group's going to be a wild ride. I'm looking forward to it. I think level 2 is going to be a great source of adventure here. And yeah, we got through level 1, kind of cheesed it, and I was happy doing so because the odds of them making it out as a group with those rolls at level 1 were very low. I think level 2 to level 3 is going to be fairly easy as well, and then we're going to slow down drastically level 3 to level 4 and start seeing a bit more meat on these adventures to get our advancement going. At least the way I'm looking at things, I think that's the way it's going to go. Either way, hopefully you all enjoy this. Apologies again for not being 100%, but I did want to get something out this week and sort of get this out while it was still somewhat fresh. There were little details and things that I'm sure I missed at the table, some of the nuance. Not so much missed at the table, allow me to rephrase. I'm well aware of it there, but I don't think I'm conveying it properly here because time has passed, and despite having the notes and everything, there's just little subtleties that sort of get lost in translation over the days. It's usually why I'm like the next day or two recording, but I was certainly in no voice to do so the past couple days. All the same, I do hope this was an enjoyable watch, enjoyable view. And as a random aside, the channel The Crawl, much bigger channel than me, just put out a video the other day about dungeon crawling video games. And the guy just flat out mentioned Fragment as the .hack game in his collection, said he was gifted it by a friend, and even used some of the footage that I had recorded for the old A Fragment from the Net Slum channel as the preview. So that was a cool little thing for me to see that. And always awesome to see people mentioning Fragment. It's something I don't do as regularly these days on the channel, but I did just kind of want to point that out. In the meantime, this has been a Grumpy Old Guy Gaming. Thanking you for watching. I hope you're well wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and hopefully we will see you around these old parts soon.